dear students. I'm Dr. Kanika, Assistant Professor in IMS Noida. So today we are going to discuss about the programming languages. Everyone knows about the programming languages where we learn how to do code or how to develop a software with the help of programming language. So programming language is a broad concept where you can learn about what is the traditional programming language, what is object-oriented programming languages, right? In the market, there are lots of programming language and this industry is developing day by day. So let's start our video. This is the programming language concepts. What is a programming language? What are there so many? Why are there so many programming languages? What are the types of programming languages? Why we need these new languages? So we are going to cover uh, every topic one by one. So what is a programming language? A programming language defines a set of instructions that are compiled together to perform a specific task by the CPU. CPU is what? Your central processing unit. So programming language is a set of rules, right? Where you are performing some operations step by steps. So it's a way of telling a computer what operations to perform. A programming language is a set of rules for communicating an algorithm. Before to do our code, we have to develop an algorithm which have to be implemented in some language, right? So programming language is a step-by-step process where you can develop so many codes to develop a software, right? So it provides a linguistic framework for describing computations. So each programming language contains a unique set of keywords and syntax where you learn how to do a code. So with the help of these these keywords and syntax, you create a set of instructions, right? So what? Again, a programming language is a notational system for describing computation in a machine readable and human readable form, right? Look, there is a very basic definitions of programming language where you have to write a code which is understandable by both the machine and human, right? If machine understand the binary code and human just only understand English. So you when you write a code, so you do coding in English language, but it will convert in the machine language, right? Like just I said earlier, okay, humans just understand English. Human can't understand the machine language. So English is a natural language. It has words, symbols, and grammatical rules. So on the base of this language, we create set of instructions. We create a code and implemented the code. So a programming language has also words, symbols, and rules of grammar. So grammar's rules are called syntax. Each programming language has a different set of syntax rules. Like we have multiple languages. We have typical languages, we have object-oriented languages, we have scripting languages. So every language has a different set of syntax rules where you can learn how to do code. In every language you learn, the logic will be same, but the syntax, but the way to implement a code will be different. So why are there so many programming languages? Like human interface languages, English has a predefined grammar which needs to be followed to write English statements in a correct way. Likewise, why does some people speak French? Most of the human interface languages like Spanish, like Hindi, like in India, there are multiple languages where people understand their regional languages, right? So we have to understand that so many things involved and the connections involved with the languages, right? But similar to human interface languages, computer programming languages are also made of several elements. We will through the basic of these elements and make you comfortable to use them in various programming languages, right? So programming languages have evolved over time as better ways have been developed to design them. First programming languages were developed in 1950s. Since then, thousands of languages have been developed, right? Like I earlier said, this field is growing day by day. This field has emergings and lots of opportunities where you can develop your own code. Like nowadays, machines can communicate with you. Machines are doing the human tasks. Machines understand the emotions of humans. So just because of this programming language, we can communicate. We achieved this task, right? So different programming languages are designed for different types of program. Levels of programming languages, like there are basically three types of levels. First is high level program, second is low level program, and third is executable machine code. High level program are those programs where we conduct implement a code, right? So these some programming language provides less or no abstractions, while some provide higher abstractions. So based on the levels of abstraction, we identify two categories. One is low level language and second is high level language. So high level programs, here the levels of programming language means you writing this code in English. But low level program, this is the your which where we are loading someone. Okay, if we are doing suppose addition, so what we will do, we will load some register to store that variable. And executable machine code means that the binary code which is understood by the your computer. So what are the types of programming language means? Generations of programming languages. So programming languages have been developed over the year in a phased manner. Each phase of development has made the programming language more user-friendly, easier to use and more powerful. Each phase of improvement made in the development of the programming language and can be referred to as a generation. So the programming language in terms of their performance, reliability and robustness can be grouped in the 5 different generations. First is first generation, second generation language, third generation language, fourth generation language, and last is fifth generation language. So first generation language, which is called the machine language, right? The first generation programming language is also called a low level programming language because they were used to program the computer system at a very low level of abstraction, that is at the machine level. The machine language, also referred to as a native language of the computer system, is the first generation programming language. In the machine language, a programmer only deals with a binary number, right? What is the advantages of first generation language means? This is the first generation, so they are translation free and can be directly executed by the computers. The program returns in these languages are executed very speedily and efficiently by the CPU of the computer system. So operation code is a simple programming language. There is no translations. Operations, what operations have to be performed, right? But these are very efficient code but very difficult to write. Second generation language, it, it, it is also called assembly language. The second generation programming language also belongs to the category of low level programming language. The second generation language comprises assembly languages that use the concept of mnemonics for the writing program. In the assembly language, symbolic names are used to represent the opcode and operand part of the instructions, means where programs needed to be assembled for executions by the computer. Next is third generation language. It is the high level language. The third generation programming language were designed to overcome the various limitations of the first and second generation programming languages. The languages of the third and later generations are considered as a high level languages because they enable the programmer to concentrate only on the logic of the program without considering the internal architecture of the computer system. Means program written in source code which must be translated into machine code language programs, which is called object code. So there is no computer architecture involvement, right? The translation of source code to object code is accomplished by a machine language system program called a compiler. Compiler translates the high level language into machine language. Alternative to accomplish its interpretation, there are so many third generation languages like Photon, COBOL, C and C++, Visual Basic. Next is fourth generation language. So fourth generation are high level 4G language that require fewer instructions to accomplish a task than a third generation language. So the languages of this generation were considered as a very high level programming languages, required a lot of time and effort that affected the productivity of a programmer. The fourth generation programming languages were designed and developed to reduce the time, cost, and effort needed to develop different types of software applications. Like uh, where you can, it is a very efficient language where you use of data by implementing the various database. ठीक है, like query languages, report generators, forms designers, application generators. So the program developed in these languages are highly portable as compared to the programs developed in the languages of other generations like SQL, CSS, Cold Fusion. These are the examples of this language. Last is fifth generation language. So declarative language means the programming language of this generation mainly focus on constraint programming. The major fields in which the fifth generation programming language are employed are artificial intelligence and artificial neural network, logic, Prolog, functional libs, XML, R. These are the examples. So these languages can be used to query the database in a fast and efficient manner. In this generation of language, the user can communicate with the computer system in a simple and an easy manner. I told about you the machines where machines are doing the human tasks, machines now understanding the emotions of a human. So in this is all about the fifth generation language where with the help of this artificial intelligence, machine learning, neural network, with the help of these languages, we a machine can communicate with and with the humans. Machines are performing so many tasks efficiently and effectively with the help of these languages. So beyond fifth generation language, so there, although no clear definition at present, because natural language programs generally can be interpreted and executed by the computer with no other actions by the user than stating their questions. So limited capabilities at present. Like today itself, there are so many challenges exist. Like what happen if machines will control to a human, right? There are lots of challenges how to handle the data, what about the human's privacy, like if we are depending on the machine completely, and which is going on in this generation, so what will happen in the next future. Machine can control our lives. There are so many films which is based on this topic, this concept. So beyond fifth generation, we can't say anything so much right now because there is no current definition, no present exact definitions available. So this is all about the generations. Principal paradigms, like there are so many lots of languages exist. C, C++, Prolog, Lisp. So, like everyone knows about it, C is a mother language. So, firstly, we discuss about the programming language. Like two broad groups are exist. First is traditional programming language, and second is object-oriented languages. Traditional programming language is what? Where every step has been performed step by step, or we can say every um, steps perform sequence of instructions. Like we already talked about in first, second, and some third generation language. So it's all these till third generation languages. These languages were called traditional programming language, and in the mid of the third generation and till fifth generation, these languages are called object-oriented language. So there are lots of difference between the traditional programming language and the object-oriented programming languages. How object-oriented languages is better than traditional programming language. So there are lots of difference where you can directly see the the difference. Like in the traditional language, if the code is almost if I will take an example here, so it's a very simple example, you can understand it. In a traditional programming languages, you can write so many lines of so many lines of code to develop a small simple thing. But in object-oriented languages, you can do the same task with code in 4 to 5 lines. So there are lots of differences. There are in object-oriented language lots of libraries available where you can call them library and implement this code. So it's very simple in the object-oriented language. But in the traditional programming language, you have to write everything one by one. You have to implement those things. So let's start. Traditional programming languages like Fortran, formula translations, developed at IBM in the mid 1950s, designed for scientific and mathematical application by scientists and engineers. Next is COBOL, Common Business Oriented Language. These are the obsolete languages developed in 1959, designed to be common to many different computers, typically used for, this is also used for the business applications. Basics, beginners all-purpose symbolic instructions code, the full form of this language is developed at Dartmouth College in 1960s, developed as a simple language for students to write programs with which they could interact through terminals. C, like everyone knows about C, because we call C as a mother language of all the programming language. Developed by Bell Laboratories in the early 1970s, provide control and efficiency of assembly language while having third generation language features. C comes in third generation. So often used for system programs, Unix is written C. C is a program dependent, platform dependent language. So this is all about the traditional programming language. Like I already discussed that there are lots of difference between C, traditional programming languages, and the object-oriented programming language. But this is the basic overview where you can understand the traditional programming languages concept and the object-oriented programming concept. So object-oriented programming languages means C++. C++ is basically The extension of C. It is C language with additional features, means the extension of C. So whatever in C, it automatically comes in the C, and some additional features add on has been added in C++. So widely used for developing system and application software. Graphical user interfaces can be developed easily with usual programming tool. Like in the C++, it what is happening here is means okay, in C++, we use the concept of object. Like it is also called the object-oriented programming language. So what is object? Where we are create an object for reusability, for accessibility, where in the object-oriented programming language, the main advantages of this language is the reusability of a code. Java. Like C++ is a partially independent language, partially object-oriented programming language. But Java is fully object-oriented programming language. Java an object-oriented language similar to C++, it eliminates lots of C++ problematic features like in the means problematic features where there are lots of oops features has been added in Java. ठीक है? Means uh, uh, lots of features like encapsulations and allow a web page developer to create programs for applications called applets where you can do the application API, application programming interface. So with the help of object oops you can develop so many applications. So objective of Java developers is that it be machine platform and operating system independent. The main feature it's provide the security, the platform independent language. There are some special programming languages which is called the scripting language. Scripting languages is or script language is a programming language for a special runtime environment that automates the executions of tasks. So the task could alternatively be executed one by one by a human operator. Right, so scripting languages are often interpreted rather than compiled. So there are so many scripting languages like the JavaScript, VBScript, PHP, ASP, Perl, and Python. So these are the scripting languages. So there are some command languages. Command languages like there are some commands which you have to run. Like such CSH, Bash. A command language is a language for job control in computing. So it is a domain specific and interpreted language. So just like the common examples of command language are shell or batch processing languages. Next is text processing, test text processing languages. In computing, the term text processing refers to the theory and practice of automating the creation or manipulation of electronic text. So there are lots of languages available like LaTeX, PostScript, NLP, Natural Processing Language. So with the help of these language, our regular expression is a virtual editing machine having a primitive programming language that has named identifiers and name position in the sequence of letter compromising the text. So with the help of these languages, we create or generate a process report of the content. So HTML is also an scripting language, hypertext markup language used on the internet and the World Wide Web, the collections of the web pages. So web pages develop which brief codes called text in the page to indicate how the page should be formatted, how a client communicate with the user, with the server. So these are the this is all about the programming languages where you now I hope so. So you learn, I hope you learn about, you understand the concept of the traditional programming, object-oriented programming, and the scripting programming languages. So criteria. What is the criteria in a good language? It has writability, readability, orthogonality, reliability, maintainability, generality, uniformity, extensibility, standardability, implementability. These are the so many criteria which a good programming language contains. So it must these criteria must be available in your code. So thank you all. That's all about the basic features, types, or whatever we can say, the introduction of a programming language. Thank you.